A federal high court judgment issued on Thursday over the repeal of the 2019 Emirate Council law and the removal from office of 5 emirs in the state has continued to generate controversy. Since the judgment was delivered by Justice Muhammadu Liman, the two parties involved have been claiming victory. However, a copy of the certified true copy made available to newsmen in Abuja shows that the reinstatement of Emir Sanusi was nullified by the court. The court judgment has widened the rift between the state governor, Abubakar Yusuf, and the Commissioner of Police in Kano, Assistant Inspector General of Police Hussaini Gumel. AIG Gumel has spawned Governor Abba Yusuf's directive to the state's police command to evict the deposed Emir of Kano, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, from the Mini Palace in Nasarawa part of the metropolis where he currently resides. Joining us now on this show as we discuss the Kano Emirate tussle is Dr. Abubakar Alkali, a public affairs analyst and a senior lecturer at Baze University, Abuja. Good morning, Dr. Alkali. Thank you for joining us.
Well, good morning, Rufai.
I assume you know the story, and we already gave the introduction. What's your take about the situation we have in Kano and the ruling by Justice Liman, which some people say is so vague as to be confusing?
That's right. I think there are actually two aspects of this issue. The one is the political aspect, and the other is the judicial aspect. The political aspect, is on the basis of the altercation, the political altercation between the Kwankwasiyya movement led by Rabi Musa Kwankwaso and the Ganduje, group. I think the altercation has led to a lot of divisions within the Emirate. It has, literally balkanized the Emirate into two, the pro-NNPP and the pro-APC groups. And obviously that is not healthy. Because you now have a situation where the politicians have been able to manipulate the traditional institution into politics. Okay, that is the political aspect. Now the judicial aspect. I think the first thing, in any litigation is jurisdiction. And as you rightly stated, it's confusing. The judgment is actually confusing because, there is a subsisting, judgment of the Supreme Court. That's Tukur versus the Gongola state government in 1987, which clearly stated that, courts cannot, take jurisdictions, outside the constitution, and that chieftaincy matters, local matters are actually within the jurisdiction of state high courts. That's a state jurisdiction, not a federal jurisdiction. But the Judge Justice Liman relied on Section 42(1), which essentially is a human right, provision. As I said, in Tukur versus Gongola state government, 1987, it has already explicitly been stated that these are, local chieftaincy matters are local state matters, and the judge left that, in the Gongola versus Tukur case, but he actually went into the human rights aspect of it. So if this has been an issue of human rights and detention and banishment, that would have been a different story. But it is about, the detriment of the emir. In Gongola state versus Tukur, the judge said he cannot delve into federal high courts cannot delve into issues of chieftaincy titles.
So that's about jurisdiction.
But he said, in terms of human rights, the banishment and detention of the emir, okay, he ruled on that. Obviously, he said it's not an aspect of human right for someone to claim, emirship. Otherwise, all of us will have run to one emirship or the other to, claim, ownership. So that is, on that. And I think it's also, Dr. Abati, is also a kind of a script playing out, because this is more or less the same thing that played out when Sanusi was dethroned. Although Sanusi was more on it because he approached a federal high court, and his suit was on human rights. Okay, and the court ruled that it's illegal for the government to banish him to somewhere outside the state, and he cannot be detained. And he was even awarded a compensation of 10 million naira. So another thing where politics again come into it is that you find out that the Ganduje group actually opted to go to a federal high court. I'm sure their lawyers know that this is outside the jurisdiction of the federal high court. Now, they opted to go there because obviously you cannot be fighting a state government in a state court, especially judging by within the context of the weak judicial system that we have, where you have conflicting judgments. This has been happening over and over again. So now Ganduje is also doing the same thing. He's not going to where he should go. He's not going to a state high court. He's going to a federal high court, because he feels, and rightly so, that the suit will be thrown out. So that was, as I said, what Sanusi did, when he was dethroned about 4 years ago. He went to a federal high court, but his suit was actually on detention and banishment. That's human rights, which the court has jurisdiction over. So it will be left to be seen what the appellate court will say, because the case has been passed to the appellate court. This is another confusing aspect, of course, because he just said he has jurisdiction, and again he passed on the case to the appellate court. If you have jurisdiction, why don't you, make a final determining statement on it? So, for me, to be honest, the most important thing that we have to actually look at is this aspect of monopolization of the traditional institution by politicians. And because the Constitution, there are gaps in the Constitution, the role of the traditional rulers has not been clearly defined. So politicians take advantage of that.
Let me jump in as you're talking about institutions. I was reading a comment made by Emir Sanusi, I believe, over the weekend, where he's saying that he is okay with being dethroned, but the emirate must remain one. Now, what scenario do you foresee, given the background that you've painted of the politics and the judicial issues around it? Do you foresee a scenario where this can become a case about institutions more than it is about personalities? Can the emirate remain one, or will this mean reverting back to Ganduje's system that he had implemented?
Yeah, I think it will be very difficult for the emirate to go back to where it was. It will be very difficult. But I also understand that the gladiators know the importance of unity within the family. The family has before now hitherto been united, to a very good extent, but politicians came in and they used this divide and rule issue. Okay, so it's highly likely that going forward there will still be altercations, there will still be issues, of unity. But I think the gladiators will try to, as much as possible, keep the family together. But also, for that unity to happen, they actually need to stay away as much as possible from the politicians. Now, maybe the appellate court might, use technicalities on this. As I said, a lot of these judgments are actually political to a large extent. So they may have a situation where they may actually throw out this judgment by Justice Liman for lack of jurisdiction, because clearly the Federal High Court has no jurisdiction. He may throw it out. We may even have a situation where, because technically now there is a vacuum actually, there's a vacuum. But then, at the same time, whoever is there will, technically continue to be there until the determination of the suit. So we may have a situation where the appellate court might say, okay, look, the judgment, the Lehman judgment has been thrown out, okay, and at the same time, the dethronement of the emir is in order, okay. So we may have an open situation which will give the government, the Kano State government in this case, the leverage to now, pick an emir. You understand? A situation where the court will now say, okay, all issues are now resolved. It's now an open Sanusi is illegally installed and Bayero is legally dethroned. Okay, technically upholding the ruling of Justice Liman. So in that case, there will be a vacuum, and the government, the Kano State government, which actually has the constitutional powers, okay, to appoint these emirs, will come in and appoint, their candidate, obviously Sanusi. And if Adebayo should continue, in this state, you will also be wondering how he is going to work with the Kano State government. Okay, so I don't see, to be honest, I don't see Adebayo coming back in this instance. I see a situation where the constitutional role, constitutional powers of Kano State government to appoint an emir will still prevail at the end of the day.
Okay, two scenarios. I hear that some of the family members have started speaking to both men. I don't know what the resolution was like. Secondly, we're having a lot of conflicting interpretations as regards that judgment. Have you seen the certified true copy of that judgment? Because based on another interpretation, some people said they saw the certified true copy and they said, oh, they nullified everything about Sanusi. That's the second question. The third question will be about the general health of the Kano metropolis as we speak. It's very volatile as we speak. How do we pipe things low to a final resolution of the issue? And tell me more about the judge that gave a judgment and is in transition. And now he's even handed the case over to another judge after the judgment. Please.
Yeah. I'll start from the last one. I think, the judge clearly knows he doesn't have jurisdiction. That's technically what he's saying. So he cannot determine the case. And hence, he now passed it on to, another judge, to another court, to another judge. So that is clearly an admission of lack of jurisdiction, on the judge. And on the issue of the volatility of Kano politics. I think this is a very, very serious matter. It has the potential of not only setting Kano, on the edge, but the whole nation, I think. And to that extent, I think the law should take its course. Whatever is done has to be within the context of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Which is very clear that chieftaincy matters, traditional matters, local matters are actually, under the state government. The state government, only the state government has the powers to deal with such issues. So also family members have been, speaking to people, they've been speaking to a cross-section of the public. They've been speaking to politicians. And all this tells you one thing, that, look, there is division within the family, and everybody is concerned, about what's going on, about the need to keep the family together, and, okay, the need to keep the state peaceful as much as possible. But I think one thing which is more important, maybe we should learn a lesson from this, which is that we should actually, look out for a constitutional amendment, okay, to clearly, define the role of traditional rulers. Obviously, they have been carrying out roles. Okay, politicians have used this vacuum, as I said earlier, of the gap in the constitution on the role of traditional rulers to manipulate the traditional institution. It's just like during elections, during campaigns, you have to support me as a traditional ruler. And in the event that you don't support me, and I win the election, I'll come for you. That's what is. There are actually even issues, such issues in some states now. We don't know how they will fan out. So the National Assembly should go into this issue. Should present a bill that there should be an amendment of the Constitution to clearly define what the role of traditional rulers is.
Yeah, I get your point, Dr. Alkali. After all, in the 1960 and 1963 constitutions, there was a provision for the House of Chiefs, but that changed. And there's been an advocacy to have, a better defined role for traditional rulers. But that will open up another argument entirely.
Absolutely.
But thank you very much for joining us on the morning show.